The first sound that cuts through the baking desert air is her voice. A scream so raw it slices through the afternoon like a broken blade. And when your eyes follow it, you find her. A young woman, maybe 20, maybe 21. Her dress torn at the seams, knees scraped, wrists strapped high above her to a splintered mesquite limb trembling in the Nevada heat. The sun hammers down on her skin so fiercely that even breathing looks painful. Her name, at least the one she whispers when she still has strength, is Lena Raynor. And today, she looks like someone the frontier simply tossed aside and left to die. Dust clings to her legs. Her lips are split. A long scratch runs down her thigh, dried blood trailing to her ankle like the wound itself got tired before she did. She hasn't eaten since dawn yesterday. She hasn't slept since the night before. But none of those things are the worst. Not the rope, not the hunger, not even the burning ground beneath her feet. The worst thing is the fear in her eyes, and how desperately she tries to hide it. She's tied near a lonely stretch of dead brush outside Silver Gulch, where the ground looks as though fire passed through months ago. No shelter, no water. Just her and a wide-brim hat thrown in the dust nearby. And the shadow over her belongs to a broad-shouldered rancher named Calder Boone, age 51, owner of the Red Mesa Range. A man who has buried more family than he speaks about. A man who carries grief the way other folks carry a pocket knife. People say his anger is quiet, the kind that stays sleeping until someone steps on the wrong memory. Today, that wrong memory is this girl. Lena lifts her head when she hears him move closer. Her voice trembles, but she forces it into something steady. "You shave me, and I swear I'll kill you." The words sound like a warning tangled with a prayer. Calder stills. The deputy beside him snorts, as if the threat of a tied-up girl means nothing, as if her fear is entertainment. But Calder doesn't laugh. He has seen eyes like hers, the kind that keep fighting long after the body is done. The deputy tells him to hurry, says the girl was caught trying to steal a horse behind the Red Rock stables, says the punishment is simple: shave her head to shame her, then let Silver Gulch decide what to do with her next. People gather, hungry for a spectacle, for humiliation. Calder crouches and picks up the shaving kit, slow as a man lifting something he wishes were never put in his hands at all. Lena flinches when he raises the straight razor. Her breath stutters, shallow and panicked, but her stare never leaves his. "You shave me," she whispers again, barely more than a breath. "And I promise I will kill you." And right then, Calder sees something the crowd doesn't care to notice. This girl isn't a thief. She is terrified. She is cornered. And she is protecting a truth big enough to die for. You can feel it. Something in the air is shifting, and nobody in this crowd is ready for it. So here's the question. What happens when a man who has already lost everything is asked to lose even more, just to save a stranger? Calder keeps the razor in his hand, but something inside him changes the moment that second whisper leaves her lips. Soft, but sharper than any blade. "You shave me, and I swear I'll kill you." Not a criminal's threat, a cornered soul's last weapon. He studies her face, the dust smeared across her cheeks, the bruise darkening along her jaw, the way her knees shake but she refuses to bow. He has seen animals backed into fences with that same wild fear, and he knows danger long before others smell it. The deputy shifts impatiently. The crowd murmurs, annoyed the show hasn't begun. Calder ignores them. He asks Lena how she ended up at the Red Rock stables. Her answer bursts out in fragments, heavy, shaking, full of secrets she has been carrying like stones. She says no one asked her anything. She says no one cared if she had a reason. She says she's been running since the night her step-uncle tried to trade her off to a trail driver who thought a young girl would be easy company on the long road north. Calder's jaw tightens at the mention of the uncle, because evil does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it sleeps down the hall. He knows that too well. Lena explains she only took the horse because she needed to reach Fort Karen before the man who bought her did. And she would have made it if exhaustion hadn't dropped her behind the stables. Calder glances at her wrists, swollen, sliced, rope biting into skin already torn. This isn't a thief. This is a hunted girl running from a nightmare that refuses to quit. You ever meet someone and instantly feel danger walking right behind them? The deputy steps closer and reminds Calder what happens if he refuses. He says the law is the law. He says letting her go will turn every drifter loose. Eyes stare at Calder, waiting for him to fold, to obey. But Lena just keeps staring at him, breath shaking, eyes burning like a storm ready to break. Then Calder hears himself ask something he never planned to say. "Lena, if I cut that rope, what comes after you?" She doesn't answer at first. Her breathing rattles like she's deciding whether she can trust the man holding both her freedom and her fate. Wind stirs the dust between them. Finally, she whispers the truth. Not one man, not two. 3 riders trailing her. Men promised good money if they delivered her before dusk 2 nights ago. Men who don't give up once the hunt begins. The kind who make good towns bolt their doors by sunset. A chill runs through Calder, despite the burning Nevada heat. He looks over his shoulder, half expecting riders cresting the basin already. But all he finds is the deputy, arms crossed, patience gone thin. The crowd mutters for the punishment to start. But Calder isn't looking at them. He's looking at Lena, at the terror she's trying to bury, at the trembling in her legs. And that's when a memory he hates rises inside him. His daughter, Mira, lying fever-thin in a clinic bed in Tucson, hair falling out in brittle strands. He remembers holding her hand, praying she'd stay. He remembers her last whisper. "Help the ones who can't help themselves, Papa." He failed once. He swore in the quiet of his soul he'd never fail that way again. Calder looks back at Lena, and the decision settles in him like a heavy, unbreakable stone. He lowers the razor. Slow. Final. The deputy lurches forward, furious, but Calder doesn't hear him. The razor flashes, the rope slices clean, and Lena collapses forward. Calder catches her before she hits the dirt, holding her like someone who just pulled a life back from the edge. The crowd freezes. Even the deputy goes silent. Everyone knows Calder Boone just crossed a line no man crosses safely. Lena stares up at him, fear, confusion, and hope mixing all at once. Calder offers her his hand. And in that moment, the story turns in a direction no one in Silver Gulch saw coming. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps more folks find these frontier tales. And tell me, Where are you watching from? What city? What country? Drop it in the comments. And please share this video with someone who loves Western stories. And if you can, share this video with someone who could use a little courage today. It truly helps more than you know. Josie wipes the last tear from her cheek, though her hand still trembles. Elias watches her with a steady patience that feels older than the land around them. He has seen storms and sorrow and the kind of quiet misery that makes a person fold in on themselves. But he has never seen a girl as bruised and beaten as this one still look the sunrise in the eye. Before he can speak, the wind changes. It's small at first, a shift, a whistle, a faint thrum in the ground beneath their feet. But Elias feels it all the way through his boots, and Josie feels it in her bones. Riders, coming fast, coming hard, coming straight. Josie's breath snaps short. Her fingers dig into her skirt, and for a moment she looks like she might collapse again. But Elias steps in front of her, shoulders squared, stance grounded, as if his body alone could keep the whole world from touching her. "Stay low," he murmurs, voice low, rough, and unshakable. "And don't you run again unless I tell you." Josie wants to argue. She's done nothing but run. Running is all she knows. Running is how she survived. But something in Elias's voice settles the panic in her chest, just enough to keep her feet still. The thundering hooves grow louder. Through the shimmering heat, 3 silhouettes appear over the ridge, moving like wolves that finally caught a scent they've been hunting for too long. Their shapes sharpen. Wide hats, rifles strapped to saddles, dust curling behind them like a ghost. Josie presses a hand to her mouth. "That's them," she whispers, voice so tight it barely escapes. "That's them, Elias." He doesn't say anything at first. He simply lifts his coat slightly, checking the revolver at his hip. He hasn't had to shoot in months, but today feels different. Today feels like the kind of day that tests whether a man's promise means anything at all. He turns his head just enough to see her. "Josie," he says quietly, "if things turn bad, you run to the river. Follow the bank. Don't look back." She shakes her head instantly. "I'm not leaving you." "Girl," he says, eyes firm, "you've survived worse than what's coming. Don't you start thinking you're finished." For a split second, she almost smiles. Almost. Because then the riders reach the bottom of the hill. The one in front, a heavy-set man with a scar tearing down his cheek, spits into the dirt and pulls his horse to a stop. "Ward," he calls out with a grin that doesn't reach his eyes. "You got something that belongs to us." Elias doesn't flinch. "She belongs to herself." Scarface laughs, a sharp, ugly sound that makes Josie shiver. "Boy, you always were soft," he says. "Her uncle paid good coin. Said we'd get the rest after delivery." Josie tries to hide behind Elias, but Scarface notices. He always notices. "Well, look at that," he sneers. "Little rabbit's still breathing." Elias steps half an inch more in front of her, not hiding her, not blocking her, just staking his ground. "You're not touching her," he says. Scarface's grin fades. "You sure about that? 'Cause the law ain't exactly on your side." Josie tenses. Elias doesn't. "The law stopped mattering," Elias says softly, "the second you tied her to a tree and left her to die." A long, hot silence spreads across the riverbed. The other 2 riders exchange glances. Hands hover near gun grips. Dust swirls like the land itself is waiting to see who fires first. Josie leans close, barely breathing. "Elias, please." He doesn't look back at her, just tilts his head, listening to the wind. "You three got one chance," he tells the riders. "Turn around, go home, forget her name, forget her face." Scarface spits again. "Not happening." Elias nods once. Then everything explodes. A gunshot cracks the air, lightning fast. The horses panic, kicking sand and rock into the sky. Josie screams and drops to the ground. Elias moves so fast she barely sees the flick of his coat before his revolver is out, before the second rider goes down with a shout. Scarface fires again. The bullet slices Elias's sleeve. Josie grabs a handful of dirt and crawls behind a fallen cottonwood, heart hammering so hard she can't even think. But she doesn't run. She promised she wouldn't run. And Elias, God help her, Elias stands like a man built out of stone. He fires once, twice. The third shot echoes across the river like thunder. When the dust finally settles, only Scarface is left, wounded, furious, gripping his arm and trying not to fall off his horse. His eyes burn with a hatred Josie has seen before, the kind that turns good men into ghosts and bad men into monsters. "You should have stayed out of it, Ward," he growls. "This ain't over." Elias lowers his gun but doesn't holster it. "You come after her again," he says quietly, "and you'll find out what over really means." Scarface snarls, jerks his reins and gallops off, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Josie doesn't move, not until Elias turns around and holds out his hand. "You all right?" he asks. She tries to answer, but her voice breaks, so she just nods and forces herself to her feet. Elias studies her for a long moment, the trembling, the dirt, the fear, and then just gives a small, steady nod. "You're safe," he says, "as long as I'm breathing." Josie presses a hand to her ribs, breath shaking. Nobody has ever said that to her before. And for the first time in her life, she actually believes it. The sunlight warms the riverbank, brushing over them like a quiet promise. And somewhere far ahead, past the golden hills, past the cottonwoods, past the danger still chasing them, a future begins to open. A fragile one, a dangerous one, but a future all the same. And that is where the real story begins. If you enjoyed this continuation, hit like, drop a comment, and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Your support helps this Wild West channel grow, and the next episode is already on the way. If you want more stories filled with grit, courage, and heart, don't forget to subscribe.